Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today. Before we begin, here are today's top stories. Malaysia is strengthening existing laws to better address the threat of foreign interference. The review focuses in particular on the penal code, as current laws do not comprehensively cover such threats. Israel's ground forces advanced into several towns in southern Lebanon while continuing airstrikes across the country. The United Nations peacekeeping mission UNIFIL said Israeli troop movements violate Lebanon's sovereignty. The US Senate rejected a resolution aimed at curbing President Donald Trump's authority to continue military strikes on Iran. It was a narrow congressional show of support for a conflict launched without explicit approval from lawmakers. An independent United Nations probe investigating rights violations in Iran condemned the attacks by Israel and the US, saying they violated the UN Charter. It also said the killing of dozens of Iranian officials in the airstrikes was not an acceptable means under international law. Iran has postponed the state funeral for Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. The ceremony, initially planned for Wednesday evening in Tehran, was delayed due to expected massive crowds. Brazilian lawmakers have finalized their approval of a free trade agreement between the Mercosur bloc and the European Union. The collective approval by the legislatures of Mercosur's members is a necessary step for the deal to take effect, following more than 2 decades of negotiations. Ecuador ordered the expulsion of Cuba's ambassador to Quito, giving him and his diplomatic staff 48 hours to leave the country. The Foreign Ministry declared Ambassador Basilio Guterres persona non grata, but did not provide a specific reason for the decision. The national men's hockey squad confirmed their progress to the semi-finals of the World Cup qualifying campaign after defeating China in the final Group B match. The win saw Malaysia finish the group as runners-up behind group champions Pakistan. Johor Darul Takzim, or JDT, defeated Sanfrecce Hiroshima in the first leg of the AFC Champions League Elite round of 16. The victory ensures Cisco Munoz's side carries a comfortable lead into the return leg in Hiroshima next week. And that's today's top news in a quick snapshot. Up next, the complete World Today Bulletin. Stay tuned. Welcome back to World Today. We begin with some local news. Malaysia is reviewing and strengthening existing laws to better address the threat of foreign interference. National Security Council Director General Datuk Raja Nur Shirwan Zainal Abidin said the review focuses in particular on the penal code, as current laws do not comprehensively cover such threats. Datuk Raja Nur Shirwan said without specific legislation, it is difficult for security and enforcement agencies to take decisive action against subversive activities.
Jadi kalau kita tak ada undang-undang, nak ambil tindakan tu memang amat susah ataupun sukar ataupun impossible. Jadi sebab itulah kita akan ada basis perundangan yang kukuh. Jadi dengan adanya perundangan tersebut, undang-undang tersebut, kita boleh ambil tindakan dengan cara yang lebih berkesan.
Datuk Raja Nur Shirwan was speaking during the program Bicara Naratif, Dimensi Baharu Keselamatan Negara, broadcast live on RTM. He also noted that in intelligence and security management, the impact of an action is more important than the intent, and any activity suspected of posing risks to national security must be investigated thoroughly. Iranian state television has aired footage showing the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, launching missiles and drones. Tehran said the launches are part of the 18th wave of Operation True Promise 4, targeting US and Israeli interests across the region. The video appears to show missiles and drones being fired yesterday. Iranian media reported the operation was launched against what Tehran calls the Zionist entity. The state television also released footage showing the wreckage of what it claims is an Israeli drone. The footage broadcast yesterday comes after IRGC reportedly shot down the aircraft. Iranian media earlier said air defense systems intercepted an Israeli drone in Iranian airspace. However, the exact location of the footage and the ownership of the aircraft cannot be independently verified. A missile launched from Iran towards Turkey has been intercepted and destroyed. Turkey's defense ministry said the ballistic missile traveled through Iraqi and Syrian airspace before heading towards Turkish territory. It was neutralized by NATO air and missile defense systems in the eastern Mediterranean. Debris from the interception fell in Hatay province, but no casualties were reported. Following the incident, Turkey warned Iran against any move that could escalate the conflict. Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan told his Iranian counterpart in a phone call that steps that could spread the war must be avoided. Ankara said it will act decisively to defend its airspace and reserves the right to respond to hostile actions. At least 87 sailors were killed and about 61 others missing after an Iranian warship sank off Sri Lanka yesterday. Sri Lanka's Navy rescued 32 crew members from the frigate Iris Dina after it issued a distress call near the southern port of Gale. Officials from the vessel sank shortly after a reported explosion. Rescued sailors were taken to hospital in Gale, while Navy vessels and aircraft continued search and rescue operations. The warship was travelling after reportedly attending a military exercise in India's eastern port of Visakhapatnam. The incident comes as tensions escalate in West Asia following US and Israeli strikes on Iran. The U.S. Senate has rejected a resolution aimed at curbing President Donald Trump's authority to continue military strikes on Iran. It was a narrow congressional show of support for a conflict launched without explicit approval from lawmakers. The bipartisan measure would have required the withdrawal of U.S. forces from hostilities against Iran unless Congress authorizes the campaign. But with Republicans holding a 53-47 majority in the upper chamber of Congress, largely backing the president's decision to attack Iran alongside Israel, the resolution fell short by exactly that margin. Democrats argued Trump unconstitutional bypass Congress when he ordered the air campaign and say the administration has offered shifting justifications for the war. Republicans have largely rallied behind their leader, though some have signaled their support could wane if the war expands or drags on. The debate in Congress over Trump's authority to wage war reflects broader unease on Capitol Hill about the scope and duration of the military campaign. Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has declared no to the war, deepening a growing rift with the United States. Madrid refused to allow U.S. forces to use Spanish military bases for strikes against Iran. In response, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to cut all trade with Spain, calling the country a terrible ally. Sanchez defended his stance in a televised address, saying Spain will not support actions that go against its values and interests.
de un derecho internacional que nos protege a todos, especialmente a los más indefensos, a la población civil. En segundo lugar, no a asumir que el mundo solo puede resolver sus problemas a base de conflictos, de bombas. Y finalmente, no a repetir los errores del pasado. En definitiva, la posición del Gobierno de España se resume en 4 palabras: no a la guerra.
The dispute has drawn support from European leaders, with the European Union and France expressing solidarity with Spain. The disagreement comes as tensions rise globally following the escalation of conflict involving Iran. Coming up, US-Israeli strikes on Iran violate UN Charter.
Tutup tingkap dan pintu untuk kekal dingin dan lebih jimat.
Welcome back to World Today. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said divisions within the Security Council remain a concern for UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres as tensions escalate in West Asia. Asked whether the UN chief was worried about the Council's inability to respond to the crisis involving Iran, Dujarric said members must work towards unity.
Frankly, we've been concerned about the lack of unity in the Security Council for some while now in dealing with a number of issues. I think the Security Council has a primary responsibility in the maintenance of peace and security, and we encourage members to find common ground to that end.
Over 100 small graves.
Responding to reports that more than 160 children were killed in the bombing of a girls' school in southern Iran, Dujarric said there must be accountability for those responsible. He also pointed to the rising military rhetoric and activity surrounding the conflict, warning that the situation risks widening. Dujarric said the Secretary-General would continue to push for diplomacy, negotiations and respect for international law. Meanwhile, an independent United Nations probe investigating rights violations in Iran condemned the attacks by Israel and the US on Iran, saying they violated the UN Charter. The United Nations Charter bans the use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. The UN Independent International Fact-Finding Mission on Iran said the attacks run counter to the UN Charter. It also expressed deep shock over a strike that hit a girls' school in Minab in southern Iran last Saturday. It noted that most of the victims appear to have been schoolgirls aged 7 to 12. The probe also said the killings of dozens of Iranian officials, including Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, in the US-Israeli airstrikes was not an acceptable means under international law. Iran has postponed the state funeral for Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. State television said the ceremony initially planned for Wednesday evening in Tehran was delayed due to expected massive crowds. Officials said millions of mourners are anticipated, requiring additional preparations and infrastructure. Khamenei, who died at 86, was killed in US-Israeli strikes over the weekend. Authorities had planned a tribute in Tehran before his burial in the holy city of Mashhad, his birthplace. A new date for the funeral has yet to be announced. Brazil's Senate has ratified a deal between the Mercosur bloc and the European Union that creates one of the world's largest free trade areas. The deal involves the 4 founding members of the South American trade bloc and has already been ratified by Argentina and Uruguay. The European Commission announced last week that it would provisionally implement the Mammoth deal pending the EU top court's ruling on its legality. The deal was signed in January after 25 years of tricky negotiations. It was given fresh impetus amid the sweeping use of tariffs by US President Donald Trump's administration, which sent countries scrambling for new partnerships.
Evidentemente é momento importante a aprovação de acordo entre dois segmentos tão importantes, Mercosul, União Europeia, o impacto positivo só para o Brasil, expectativa de 35 bilhões a mais de arrecadação. Mas nesse momento acho que é importante ressaltar o quanto a política, quando bem exercida, pode gerar frutos.
Together, the EU and Mercosur account for 30% of global GDP and more than 700 million consumers. The treaty eliminates tariffs on more than 90% of bilateral trade. Ecuador has ordered the expulsion of Cuba's ambassador to Quito, giving him and his diplomatic staff 48 hours to leave the country. The Foreign Ministry declared Ambassador Basilio Gutierrez persona non grata, but did not provide a specific reason for the decision. In a statement, the ministry said the ambassador and all personnel at the Cuban diplomatic mission must leave Ecuador's territory within 2 days. The move comes a day after Quito ended the posting of its own ambassador in Havana. Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa, a close ally of US President Donald Trump, has strengthened ties with Washington, whose administration has imposed a de facto energy blockade on Cuba. Next in sports, Speedy Tigers in semi-finals of World Cup qualifiers. The national men's hockey squad confirmed their progress to the semi-finals of the World Cup qualifying campaign after defeating China 5-4 in the final Group B match in Ismailia, Egypt. Head coach Sarjit Singh's men started the match brilliantly when Mohammad Fitri Sari opened the score as early as the 5th minute through a penalty corner. China, however, equalized a minute later through Wang Yaqi's field goal before Zhao Yulai put his team ahead through a penalty stroke in the 16th minute. Nick Muhammad Aiman Nick Rosemi then equalized 2-2 for Malaysia when he scored with 2 minutes remaining in the second quarter of the match. Continuing in the second half, Speedy Tigers doubled their lead with 3 more goals each by Faiz Helmi Jali in the 36th minute, Mohammad Fitri in the 43rd minute and Faisal Sari in the 47th minute. China fought back with 2 late goals from Zhao Yulai and Chen Benhai, but they were not enough to deny Malaysia's victory. The win saw Malaysia finish the group as runners-up behind group champions Pakistan, who had earlier defeated Austria 4-2. Malaysia will next face England in the semi-finals. Johor Darul Ta'zim, or as they're more famously known, JDT, defeated Sanfrecce Hiroshima 3-1 in the first leg of the AFC Champions League Elite Round of 16 at the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium. The victory ensures Cisco Muniz's side carries a comfortable lead into the return leg at the Ideon Peace Wing Stadium in Hiroshima on the 11th of March. The opening stages saw a balanced contest as both teams defended their goals against several attempts. However, Sanfrecce Hiroshima was forced to play with 10 men after Kim Ju-sung was shown a red card as early as the 26th minute for bringing down Nene. Kim had previously received a yellow card in the 6th minute for a foul on Jairo de Macedo. JDT's opening goal arrived in the second half through Eiger Aketsi Barusia in the 52nd 82nd minute. About 11 minutes later, a pass from João Victor Figueiredo into the penalty box set up Bergson da Silva to fire home the second goal for JDT in the 63rd minute. Sanfrecce Hiroshima suffered further disappointment when Marcos Guilherme's shot easily found the net in the 84th minute, following a cross into the box by Oscar Arribas. Bartosz Paul Goli's men managed a consolation goal just a minute later via an own goal by Nene, but the score remained 3-1 until the final whistle. Meanwhile, JDT head coach Cisco Munoz was satisfied with the result of the match. However, he hopes the same momentum will continue in the return leg in Hiroshima.
But we cannot thinking about we are 2 goals forward. We need to manage the game. We need to mature the game. We need to have the personality to have the ball. We need to create chances for try to score. We need to have the same what we prepared yesterday about that for the set pieces, the throw-ins, and the transitions. I mean about all these things and after we will see what happens. It's true, if we play a long game, maybe they start to open more the game and we have more situation maybe for make some important transitions about that. I'm sure, maybe. But it's important we not have a confidence about that and we put the focus 100% and fight like we fight tonight.
It was a good fight from our side. We created situations, we tried to defend. In set pieces we cancelled the goal, or we conceded the goal. But it was a tough match for us. But as I told, under all the circumstances, it was a good match from us. I'm proud of the team and I'm happy that we scored this 1 goal because I think this can give us a hope for the next match.
Over in badminton, national men's doubles Kang Kai-sing and Aaron Tai created a sensation when they shook only 42 minutes to eliminate world 4th-ranked duo Satwik Sairaj Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty of India in the first round of the All England Championships. In the action at the Utilita Arena Birmingham, the opening set was intense when both pairs traded points before Kai-sing and Aaron's composure at the crucial moment allowed them to take control of the first game, 23-21. The 2024 World Junior Champions, who are currently ranked 33rd in the world, stepped up their tempo in the second game to end the challenge of Satwik Sairaj and Chirag with a more comfortable 21-12 win to secure a straight-set victory. Kai-sing and Aaron, who are making their debut in the prestigious tournament, will next face the Chinese pair, Chen Bo-yang and Lui Yi, in the fight for a slot in the quarter-finals. Also advanced to the next round was another men's doubles pair, Man Wei Chong and T Kai Woon. They defeated Taiwanese brothers Li Fang-chi and Li Fang-jen 21-17, 21-16 to maintain their perfect 3-love record against the pair. They will next face another Taiwanese duo, Chu Xiang Jie and Wang Qilin. National professional mixed doubles pair, Go Sun Huat and Siobhan Lai Jae-mi also progressed after defeating England's Callum Hemming and Estelle Van Leeuwen 21-14, 21-12. They will face tournament second seeds Jiang Zhenbang and Wei Ya-sin of China for a place in the quarter-finals. Sun Huat and Siobhan have managed just 1 win in 10 encounters against the Chinese pair, which came at the 2024 China Open. And that wraps up World Today. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM. My name is Daryl Baptist. Salam Malaysia Madani, and thank you for your company. Good day.